For thousands of years, people who can commune with the spirits that overflow in the world protect everyone from the demon folk's invasion on humanity, and this history is remembered by everyone. In the present, Kristoff asks Lars if the spirit they are searching for is ahead, and Lars says that it seems to be past the corner deep inside the Grand Hall. Kristoff after that asks if the spirit is alone, and Lars concentrates for a moment before confirming that it is by itself. Kristoff turns to the rest of their team and says that it is finally the time to end the situation in front of and he asks everyone if they are ready. His team answers with excitement and shouts that they are completely prepared. Kristoff after that notices that Barton is shivering, and he asks Barton in a sarcastic tone if he is fired up as usual. Barton replies that this feeling is what everyone calls war severs, and says that it always settles down quickly, so it is not an issue. Lars looks at everyone in the team and thinks to himself that they are surely cracking jokes to calm their nerves. But only he knows deep down that all of his teammates are scared. He remembers that spirits always answer emotions, and they gather and amplify whatever intent a person has. And in a labyrinth filled with many spirits, even a small shake in someone's mind can become dangerous. To prevent this, they always send counter-spirits to keep the balance of their emotions. Lars flicks his finger toward Barton, and Barton's shivering stops instantly, showing that the counter-spirit is working. Lars tells everyone that it is time to gear up and stay focused as the final battle is near. Suddenly, without any warning, a huge dragon-type monster appears right in front of them. The entire team immediately takes their fighting stances. Lars thinks that the St. Kukat magic barrier has lasted for a long time, and that they have already bought enough time for Ula. At that moment, Ula the Sage uses powerful ice magic and freezes the monster completely. Everyone cheers and feels hopeful, believing that this might be their chance to win. They all charge toward the frozen monster at once. But as Lars runs forward, he notices something strange about the ice. He sees that the ice covering the monster is melting quickly because of the fire spirit inside it. He calls out to Kristoff and tells him they are running out of time, but Kristoff keeps charging forward without slowing down. In the next moment, the monster fully breaks out of the ice and attacks with tremendous force, sending both Kristoff and Barton flying far away. Lars looks at their bodies on the ground and realizes that the healing for those injuries will definitely take a long time because they have taken too much damage at once. He understands that the situation they are in has turned very bad, and their chances of winning are dropping quickly. The monster steps in front of Lars and stares at him with burning eyes. Lars slowly reaches for the small locket hanging around his neck and thinks to himself that the only thing they can do right now is retreat. 2 days later, the heroes' team is resting near the edge of the third labyrinth city called Dre, and everyone is trying to relax. Kristoff asks Barton where Lars is, and Barton says he has no idea. Ula after that tells Kristoff that Lars has gone to water the horse. She says there is a small spring in the nearby woods. At the same time, Lars is doing curl-ups on a strong tree branch, and he keeps counting slowly until he reaches 300. When he finishes, he checks his stopwatch and thinks his pace is slower again, which makes him a little frustrated. He looks up at the sun and feels as if he sees a dream of warm light, and deep inside, he believes he is close to remembering something important that he has forgotten. Kristoff eventually finds him and says they will leave soon, so Lars should prepare. Kristoff asks if Lars is still training during every break and reminds him that he is supposed to be a support and that no matter how much he trains, his body will only grow so strong. Lars agrees but says he still wants to do what he can because he does not want to regret anything later. Kristoff also tells him that their progress in the labyrinth has stopped again. Lars answers that even if they are struggling, they should keep their heads high because many people are watching the heroes enter the kingdom, and the people welcome them with loud cheers, as the crowd says that their rising stars have finally returned. The citizens say that the heroes are setting new records every time and that the work they do is extremely difficult. The hero party is known to include Kristoff the hero, Barton the sword saint, Ula the sage, Kuka the saint, and Lars the spirit arts user. And the people talk about their names with excitement. A man in the middle of the crowd says that this party will surely clear all of the 5 great labyrinths because he believes their strength is unmatched. He also says he has never seen a spirit arts user before and explains that this class appears only once in many centuries. The people around him say that a spirit arts user borrows the power of spirits and can raise the fighting spirit of allies or lower the fighting spirit of monsters which makes the role very special. While the two men continue their talk, a woman behind them tries to get a closer look at Lars, because she is curious after hearing so much about him. The man after that tells the others that above all spirits, there exists a spirit known as the Spirit King, and this being keeps the entire world in balance. He also says that long ago the demon folk tried to destroy the world, but they were defeated by the spirit orbs, working together with many great spirits. Some citizens say they have never felt any spirit power in their lives and think that such stories are only fairy tales told to children. However, the woman keeps watching Lars and feels that there is a strong and unusual wave of spirit power surrounding him. That night, Kristoff tells Lars that he is expelled from the party, and he explains in a serious tone that their progress in the labyrinth has been stuck for an entire month, and that the only reason, in his view, is Lars. He says that the party needs strong firepower and not what he calls useless support magic. Lars becomes shocked and starts shouting that spirit arts are not useless at all, and he says he has already explained many times that both offense and support matter equally in a real battle. Barton after that replies in a cold voice that even if Lars' explanation is true, they still do not need someone who is so low tier and weak like him. Kristoff adds that they are not a party that stands still, and that they are aiming for far higher goals, so they cannot carry someone who slows them down. Barton turns to Kuka and Ulla and tells them to say something as well. Kuka quietly says that she will follow Kristoff's decision because she trusts his judgment. Ulla also agrees with Kuka without showing any hesitation. Lars looks at all of them in disbelief, because he cannot understand how the people he fought beside for years do not even hesitate before turning against him. Kristoff after that tells Lars that the party has already found a replacement for him, and a man named Jason, who is the leader of a group called Shivering Axe, steps forward. Kristoff introduces Jason to Lars as the new member who will fill his spot. Lars realizes at that moment that there is no place left for him in the party. He has devoted himself to Kristoff. Notices that Lars looks depressed, so he tries to act cheerful and says that since they are childhood friends, they should at least send Lars off with some encouragement instead of sadness. Every other member of the hero's party, including the newly arrived Jason, raises their beer to wish Lars luck on what they call his new journey. Lars leaves the bar afterward with heavy steps, thinking in pain about how he has just wasted 5 whole years of his life working hard for people who do not value him. While he walks through the city gate later that night, a man calls out to him and tells him to wait. Lars turns around, and the man walks up angrily, says he remembers him well, and out of nowhere punches the wall right next to Lars's head. The man tells Lars not to ignore them because he and his companions are Lars's old adventurer buddies and they want to talk. 2 more men gather beside the first man and call Lars dead weight, saying they heard he got kicked out of the Rising Stars. The first man looks directly into Lars's eyes, grows more frustrated, grabs Lars by the collar, and tells him that none of his buddies are coming to save him now and that he should try fighting them with his so-called useless spirit arts. Lars clenches his fist tightly and replies in anger that his spirit arts are not useless at all. At that moment, a huge amount of energy bursts out from Lars without him meaning to release it. The lady who was watching him earlier in the day happens to be eating nearby in secret, and she out of nowhere notices an enormous wave of spirit energy coming from where Lars is standing. She looks around and realizes that no one else in the area can see any of it, and she understands that only she can perceive it because she has spirit sight. She wonders what is happening and why such a large number of spirits are showing themselves so clearly, as if responding to something inside Lars. Meanwhile, the 2 men standing behind their leader tell him that he looks pale and that his hand is shaking. Their leader insists that there is no way he would ever be scared of Lars just because he yelled at them. But when he tries to take a step forward, he feels his legs out of nowhere giving out beneath him. He falls to the ground, tries to stand up again, but finds that he cannot move properly. When he looks up at Lars, he sees something he cannot understand at all, something that makes his fear grow stronger. He screams loudly in pure fear and faints on the spot. Lars feels that he is about to lose control of his spirit power. But at that moment, a lady arrives and asks him if he is all right. He looks at her and calls her Cynthia, who is known as a member of Shivering Axe. She looks at the man who has fainted on the ground and asks the people around her what has happened to him. She after that checks his body carefully and realizes that he has no physical injuries at all. She takes out a stimulant and uses it on him, and after a moment he wakes up and stands again with weak legs. His servants come to support him, and they tell Lars that they will let him go today and that he is very lucky. And after that, they carry the man away. Cynthia looks back at Lars with a small smile and says that his spirit arts seem amazing, and that she can see that so many spirits are around him. She after that asks him why he looks so sad and depressed, if he is able to use such strong power. Lars tells her that he has just been kicked out of his party, and Cynthia says she cannot believe it because she thinks he is one of the core members of that group. Lars answers that she is probably the only one who ever thinks that way because she is the only person who can see the spirits around him. Cynthia says that it is not right for the party to treat him that way and that she is going to protest against their choice. But Lars stops her and says that it is fine. Lars walks toward his dormitory. Cynthia asks him to wait, and she thanks him for what he did earlier for her. After that, she asks him if he can give her a temporary place to stay. He tells her that she can use the last room at the top of the stairs. After that, he goes into his own room, lies down on his bed, and starts thinking about what he is supposed to do next. He wonders if this moment means the end of his adventurer life, but he keeps telling himself that he is not ready to accept such an ending, and he thinks again about the small note he found inside that old book. He feels that it has to mean something important for him. He decides that he will wait for an opening in some new party. He also thinks that he might try going on adventures alone if he must, but after that, he reminds himself that he has always been a support-type person and that his skills only work well when he has comrades around him. His thoughts slowly become blurry as his eyes close and he falls asleep. After a while, he out of nowhere opens his eyes and feels that he is floating in a space that is completely dark, and he looks around and tries to understand where he is. He hears someone calling him from behind. He looks at his own hand while wondering if this strange place is a dream or some kind of vision. After that, a soft light appears behind him, and he turns toward it and sees a very old person standing there. The old person tells Lars in a calm voice that he is the chief of all spirits in the world, and that humans once used to call him the Spirit King. The Spirit King says that he can finally stand in front of Lars. Lars feels confused and keeps wondering if what he is seeing is a dream or real life. The Spirit King tells him that he is the one who granted him the job of spirit arts user long ago, and that he has been watching him and gently guiding him up to this moment. He says that Lars never became arrogant and always held himself back with care and discipline. The Spirit King speaks with tears in his eyes and says that he truly wants to thank Lars for living with such a heart. After that, the Spirit King slowly raises his finger toward Lars, and a small dot of light floats out and enters straight into Lars's heart, and Lars can feel a warm but powerful energy spreading inside him. The Spirit King says that he can entrust this new power to Lars and that Lars must not fear it. He explains that the runover spirits are spirits who overflow with energy, and they give power even to the soul of the caster. The Spirit King tells Lars that he should let his heart burn hot enough to ignite him, but that he must also keep the cold inside him so he does not lose control. He also explains that from now on, by sharing his mana with them, Lars can make spirit power act upon real matter. Lars becomes very surprised and asks how that is possible, because he has learned his whole life that spirits can only affect the mind and the will, and that is why spirit arts have always been support-type abilities. The Spirit King agrees and says that normally this is true, but with higher spirits, Lars can burn things with fire, wash anything away with water, and even cover his own body with spirits. Lars starts to feel a strong power rising inside him and says that the feeling is like the elemental magic used by Ule. After that, he looks at the Spirit King with confusion and asks why someone like him is being given such great power. The Spirit King tells him that what happened inside him tonight was not only because of him and the fire spirits, and that another power was involved as well, most likely a power linked to the demon folk. He says that their king is now asleep, but many of them seek to awaken him, and once he rises again, their darkness will spread across the world and cover everything. He tells Lars that he is guiding him so that he can stand against that darkness, and he explains that the labyrinths are trials created for that very purpose. The Spirit King, after that, tells Lars to go to the land of beginnings, where he will meet the companions who are meant to walk beside him. He tells him that he must gain strength, grow through proper trials, and one day strike down the crown of darkness. He tells Lars that he must start again from the beginning by challenging the 5 great labyrinths without fear. The Spirit King ends by saying that he will always watch over Lars together with all the spirits. Out of nowhere, Lars wakes up in his bed and he breathes heavily, while wondering again if everything he saw was a dream or if it was real. He holds his locket tightly and asks himself if he is really a spirit lord now. He quickly checks his rank and job, and he sees that the display clearly shows that his job is spirit lord, and that his new skills are spirit clad and spirit command. When he sees this, he feels an overwhelming joy rising inside him, and he shouts loudly with excitement. After a few minutes, Lars goes to the reception and asks the receptionist if she can do him a small favor. He requests her that if anyone comes looking for him, she should tell them that he is starting from the beginning again and that he will return soon. He also hands her a letter and says that it should be given to Cynthia when she comes by. After that, he leaves the building and walks toward the gate, and once he steps outside, he begins to run. He thinks to himself that he will take the carriage early in the morning because the station is at the far edge of the town, and he wants to reach it without wasting time. After that, he whispers the words, "Cloak me." And at that moment, the wind spirit wraps around him and begins to push his body, making him feel as if he is gliding through the air. He realizes that this must be the power the Spirit King has given him. In a very short time, he reaches the station, and he says to himself that it did not even take 5 minutes. He also thinks that thanks to the spirits, he has saved all of his stamina for the travel ahead. As he stands there, he thinks that if he can really use this new power properly, after that, he will be able to clear the 5 great labyrinths. But he reminds himself that he must first find out who his true companions are, because the Spirit King said he will meet them in the land of beginning. He remembers Cynthia and quietly hopes that he will see her again after he comes back. Just when he thinks this, Cynthia out of nowhere hugs him from behind and shouts happily that she somehow managed to reach him in time. Lars turns in surprise and asks why she is there, and she tells him that she wants to go with him too. Cynthia tells Lars that their party is disbanding. Lars remembers that Jason has joined the Rising Stars, and since Jason was the leader of Shivering Axe, it is natural for him to close the party. Cynthia after that asks Lars if he can form a new party with her, and she explains that she read the letter he left at the reception, and that if he is heading toward Ainz, it means he has not given up on his life as an adventurer. She says she would be grateful if they could work together and move forward as a team. Lars feels happy when he hears this, and he gently holds her hand and tells her that they will do their best together from now on. He also remembers the Spirit King's words about meeting his true companions and thinks that Cynthia must be one of them. They get into a carriage and begin their journey toward the town of Ainz. Cynthia mentions that the place is very far and will take time to reach. Lars tells her that she could have stayed behind and joined another party if she wanted, because her job as a combat healer is well known and always in demand, and with her record and achievements in Shivering Axe, many parties would gladly accept her. He also says that he was shocked the first time he met her, because he never knew anyone could see his spirit power so clearly. He after that asks her why she wants to partner with someone like him when she has so many options. Cynthia thinks quietly for a moment, and after that says that she simply wanted to team up with him. Lars remembers that he and Kristoff also began their journey like that. Out of nowhere, the carriage driver shouts that the wagon ahead of them is being attacked by monsters and that they must retreat before they also get caught in danger. Another man in the carriage argues that they cannot abandon the people in front. Cynthia and Lars look at each other and decide that they should take on the monsters. Lars tells the driver that they are both 2-star adventurers and are strong enough to help in this situation. They jump out of the carriage and begin to charge toward the monsters without hesitation. Cynthia tells Lars that she will show him the true fighting style of a combat healer, and Lars tells her that she should allow him to handle some of the enemies too. Cynthia pulls out her mace and strikes a goblin-type monster with one powerful swing, sending it flying into the air. Lars watches her movements and realizes that it is not only her spirit-boosted physical strength that makes her strong, but also her courage and the determined will that pushes her to charge straight into danger. She defeats every monster she reaches with a single strike, and the way she moves reminds Lars of his old friend Barton. Lars becomes sure that she will be completely fine on her own, and understands that the real issue lies on his side because he has not yet tested his new power in a real battle. He summons fire spirits into his hand and thinks that with the power he received from the Spirit King, he should now be able to fight on the front lines like a true attacker. He orders the fire spirits to gather together and form a burning wall to create a barrier between the humans and the monsters. After that, he asks the earth spirits to turn into gravel and strike the enemy, and several large stones smash into the monsters. One monster manages to escape, But Lars calls the wind spirit and asks it to accelerate his body. With the sudden boost, he catches the last monster and cuts it down with his sword. Just then, Cynthia's eyes fall on a black portal that has appeared nearby, and she sees that something large and dangerous is slowly coming out of it. Lars, who does not notice the portal at all, says calmly that no one is left behind. Cynthia, out of nowhere, shouts his name and tells him to dodge immediately, but it is already too late for him to react. A huge monster jumps out of the portal with great force and strikes him hard. Lars manages to block the attack with his sword, but the impact is so strong that he still gets bruises on his hand and feels the shock travel up his arm. He struggles for a moment, but soon stands up again and tells Cynthia that he is fine. He wonders what such a big monster from the deep part of a labyrinth is doing in a place like this. Cynthia tries to step back and move away, but Lars quickly tells her that there is no way they can escape from the monster by running, not even if they try to flee by wagon, and so the only option they have left is to kill it right there. He tells her that its weak point is an organ near the ribs, and that if they can thread a strike through the gaps in the bones at the correct angle, they will definitely be able to kill it. He remembers that when he was with Kristoff, he once fought a monster of this kind and managed to defeat it, and he tells himself that he can do it again. He gathers his courage and strikes at the weak point with his sword, but the blade cannot pierce the monster's tough body, and the monster hits him again with one powerful smack and sends him flying across the ground. Lars realizes that his sword is not big enough to reach the organ inside, but he refuses to give up. He decides to create a longer blade by asking the water spirit to cloak his weapon, and after that, freeze into a sharp, solid shape. When the water spirit obeys, his blade becomes longer and stronger, and he charges forward again. He strikes the monster with this newly formed weapon, and this time the blade cuts through its skin, reaches the weak point, and destroys the organ, making the monster collapse. Cynthia runs to him as fast as she can and tightly hugs him, telling him that he really did it. Lars smiles at her, but the next second, he feels his body losing strength, and he falls to the ground from exhaustion and bruises. Cynthia holds him and tells him that she will heal him right away. At that same time, on the same day, the Rising Star Band is enjoying their time inside a bar. Barton tells Jason that their group is going to sprint straight through the third labyrinth during their next challenge. Meanwhile, Kristoff hears other adventurers talking about the Dark Hounds and saying that the group is coming and that everyone must avoid getting tangled with them or even making eye contact. Kristoff thinks to himself that the Dark Hounds truly are stains on adventurers. Just then, the Dark Hounds enter the bar, and their boss walks straight toward Kristoff. He wonders if he has ever had a normal conversation with this man before. The leader of the Dark Hounds, Mustine, stands right in front of him. People often say that Mustine was once a noble's third son, but after a violent incident he was kicked out of his family, and ever since after that, he has acted like a troublemaker who does not care about rules. Kristoff calmly asks Mustine if he needs something from him. Mustine after that asks if they really expelled Lars from their party, and he says that Lars was actually a good guy in his eyes because he never judged people by their looks or labels. He explains that he and Lars have drunk together more than once and that his whole band likes Lars a lot. Mustine also says that every single time he met Lars, Lars always told them to look out for Kristoff. After saying this, Mustine stares at Kristoff with a deadly serious expression and warns him that if Kristoff's group takes the labyrinth lightly, they will definitely die. Barton becomes angry when he hears this and asks Mustine who he thinks he is talking to. Mustine glances at Barton without fear and simply says that they are leaving. After that, he turns around and walks away with the rest of the Dark Hounds. Kristoff watches them go and thinks to himself that it is always Lars whom other guilds and the top adventurers talk about and praise. But Kristoff believes that in reality, he is the one who pushed their band upward, and that people will eventually understand this. He tells himself that he will definitely prove it by conquering the 5 great labyrinths in the future. Lars and Cynthia finally reach their destination. Lars steps out of the carriage and says that he has returned after 2 years. Cynthia smiles and says that she has missed the place very much. They are both glad to be back in the town of Ainz. They say that anyone who conquers all 5 great labyrinths can have any wish granted, and the name Adventurer belongs to the people who chase that dream. The first labyrinth in Ainz is the Flame Cavern, and the town that grew around it is known as the place where every adventurer begins their journey. Lars tells Cynthia that he remembers coming to this very town when he was 15 to register as an adventurer for the first time. Cynthia points toward an old shop and tells him that the place is still there just like before. When they approach it, they discover that it is an onigiri shop, and Lars says that they will have onigiri for lunch today. Lars asks Cynthia what she recommends, and she tells him that her classic favorite is strawberry jam and chocolate with honey on top. She buys one, takes a bite of her onigiri, and her whole face lights up with happiness as she says that it is still the best one in the shop. Meanwhile, Lars tries his own onigiri and realizes that he does not really enjoy the taste, and he thinks to himself that he probably should not let Cynthia decide their meals in the future. After this, Cynthia happily offers him a piece of her onigiri, but Lars politely says that he will pass this time. After that, he tells her that they should head to the guild. Now Lars and Cynthia go to the guild and meet the receptionist, Miss Lottie, who greets them in her calm voice. She tells Lars that she has heard about what happened to Lars and feels very sorry for him. Lars says it has been a while since they last met. In the past, Miss Lottie helped both Kristoff and Lars when they were still rookies, and her steady tone makes them feel at ease. She asks Lars if he wants to register a new party, and he says yes. She accepts his form and tells them that normally the guild does not suggest parties with fewer than 3 members, but since both Lars and Cynthia are 2-star adventurers, it should be fine for them. She after that tells Lars that they need to discuss his current class in a separate room. Both Lars and Cynthia follow her instructions and are led to a very fancy room. Lars turns to Cynthia and admits that he should have told her earlier about his new class, but before he can continue, the guild branch chief Hanneman enters the room and greets Lars with a happy expression, saying that it has been a long time since they last met. Hanneman is a former adventurer who is known for clearing the 3rd labyrinth, and he coached Lars and his team 2 years ago. Lars explains his new power to him and says that he met the Spirit King and received this strange power along with a mission to conquer the 5 great labyrinths, even though he is unsure if anyone will believe a story like that. Hanneman replies that the Spirit King is something adults treat as a fairy tale and no longer believe in, but he still finds the story fascinating, and with a cheerful smile he tells Lars that he believes him because he has lived a long life and has seen many things that did not seem possible. At first, he also says that after they sent Lars off as a spirit arts user, he himself did some research to understand more. Hanneman after that asks Lars how much he knows about the Spirit Lord, and Lars answers that he has searched through every text he could find and learned from one book that long ago there was once a person known as the Spirit Lord. He says he found the information in an old volume he discovered in the Royal Library in the capital, and he remembers noticing the book in a dusty storeroom because the spirits around him were strangely restless and led him directly to it. He explains that the covered text was written in a language he did not recognize and could not read at first. But the moment he touched the book, he somehow understood every word Lars says. That the text explains how, when spirit arts were at their peak, there was a man who alone masters the spirit arts user class. And in all historical records, he is the only one who conquered all 5 great labyrinths. He is also the one who sealed away the Demon King. Hanneman says that the old guild records he finds also mention a man who becomes a spirit lord, but they do not say anything about a Demon King. He after that looks at Cynthia and says that their party will surely conquer the 5 great labyrinths someday, and he adds that such a thing never happens through one person alone. He says that with her power and Lars's strength, he hopes they always stay by each other's side and become each other's strongest allies. Cynthia smiles and says that they will. Hanneman feels happy and tells them that the guild will keep researching and will support them whenever they need help. He also says that they will arrange special treatment just for the 2 of them. After the meeting, Lars and Cynthia walk back to the 1st floor. Cynthia tells Lars that he should have told her about everything earlier. He apologizes and says she's right. After that, she laughs softly and says she's only joking. Both of them walk toward Miss Lottie. Lars tells Cynthia that Miss Lottie is going to be their dedicated officer. Miss Lottie smiles warmly and says she's looking forward to working with them. Lars after that explains to Cynthia that a dedicated officer is a staff member who works only for one party, and usually this position is reserved for 3-star adventurers or noble house parties. Miss Lottie adds that they should take it as proof that the branch and the guild see the rise of a spirit lord as a very important event. Lars thinks to himself that it has always been a simple fairy tale, but now everything in his life is changing into something much bigger. Miss Lottie continues their registration and asks them what they want to name their party. Lars and Cynthia admit that they have not decided on anything yet. Miss Lottie says they can choose later if they prefer, but she warns them that the Flame Cavern has been acting strange for some time, and that many strong parties have suffered losses one after another. She tells them that since their party has only 2 people, their journey carries a real danger of death, and they must be careful. She advises them to rest well and to challenge the labyrinth only when they feel fully ready. Hearing her serious warning makes both Lars and Cynthia strangely excited. Cynthia says she out of nowhere feels like she can do anything, and Lars feels the same thrill he used to feel when he watched young rookies take their first steps into adventure. The sun is already setting, and Lars promises Miss Lottie that they will not go too deep inside the labyrinth, and that they only plan to have a short practice session. Both of them walk toward the labyrinth, and Cynthia tells Lars that she cannot wait to try the labyrinth again. Lars replies that Miss Lottie's warning is definitely right, as he can feel that something inside the labyrinth is not normal. He says they must stay very cautious. Cynthia answers that labyrinths are always dangerous, but also super exciting. She holds his hand tightly and says she can feel the thrill rising inside her. Just like when she first became an adventurer, Lars thinks that their new adventure truly begins from this moment. At the same time, in the third labyrinth city, Dre, it is finally the day for the Rising Stars to challenge the third labyrinth again. Jason thinks this is his first real raid since joining the party, and he wants to show that he deserves his place. Barton complains loudly that Kristoff is making them wait again for no reason. Ulla replies that it is fine to wait once in a while and that Barton should calm down. Jason looks at the members and feels that each person in the Rising Stars is truly strong, talented, and reliable. He hopes that they will link up well in battle and cover each other's weaknesses. He remembers that when Kristoff invited him, he accepted without thinking because he admired them so much. Kristoff finally arrives and apologizes for keeping them waiting. The party gets ready and decides to head into the labyrinth. Adventurers nearby notice them and start whispering excitedly. One person says that famous parties really have a different aura around them and that they hope to become someone like that someday. Hearing this, Jason feels he finally understands what it means to be someone others look up to. He recalls Mustane's warning that they will definitely die if they take the labyrinth lightly. He feels nervous but tries to convince himself that the Rising Stars are strong enough and that everything will be fine if they trust each other. Still, he worries that if he makes a single mistake out of nervousness and puts everyone in danger, he will never be able to face the people in Shivering Axe again. The party stands in front of the labyrinth gate, the air filled with tension and excitement, and Kristoff raises his voice with enthusiasm as he declares that they are going to resume the third labyrinth raid and push forward with everything they have. Inside the first labyrinth city, a huge monster walks toward another adventurer. The adventurer screams in fear. The gatekeeper warns Lars and Cynthia that they are a rare pair for challenging a level they have already cleared, before Cynthia calmly replies that they have their own reasons. And the gatekeeper says he is not trying to pry, but wants them to know that many adventurers have been getting injured lately inside the labyrinth. Lars and Cynthia walk toward the entrance, and the gatekeeper advises them not to let their guard down for even a moment. They step onto the first floor, and Cynthia excitedly says that it is finally time to begin. The labyrinth has 30 floors in total, with the upper layers shaped like long corridors, while the deeper levels are filled with many fire-type monsters. Most adventurers begin their journey here and usually spend 5 to 6 years trying to clear the entire place, but more than half end up giving up the path of an adventurer because they are badly injured or lose a comrade along the way. Lars tells Cynthia that tonight's run will last only 1 hour. He reminds her that even though they have cleared this labyrinth once before, their limit for the night is only the 2nd floor and they must return home right after that. He after that points his hand toward her and enhances her will. Cynthia immediately feels incredible and says she can feel power rising from her core. Lars says that he has gotten used to enhancing others over the years and believes that if they stay like this, they can go very far together. Filled with excitement and determination, both of them charge straight into the labyrinth. The slime-type monsters attack them as soon as they enter, but they destroy every one of them with ease. Cynthia excitedly says it feels amazing, and Lars thinks the enhanced effect she is receiving is on a completely different level from what he used to give in the past. He tells her to ignore such weak monsters and push forward without stopping. They clear the first floor in 10 minutes, and they clear the 2nd floor in the next 15 minutes. After another 20 minutes of rushing through the corridors, they clear the 3rd floor as well. Lars tells Cynthia that they are far ahead of their target time. Cynthia says that even 3-star or 5-star adventurers cannot do something like this. Lars agrees and explains that because this is their 2nd time going through the labyrinth, They can move quickly without fear. After that, he tells her that they will tag the checkpoint and return home for the night. Cynthia stretches her arms and says it was really fun, and Lars thinks that last time it took them 3 years to clear this place. But at this pace, they could probably clear the entire labyrinth in a single week. He registers their tag to mark the gate, while Cynthia out of nowhere points toward a large door and asks what it is. Lars tells her that it is a boss room. He also thinks it is strange because boss rooms only appear every 10 floors, and this one is appearing too early. He wonders if this strange placement is also part of the recent anomalies happening in the labyrinth. He recalls that the first boss in the first labyrinth should be the Flame Ogre. For most adventurers, Lars knows that this boss is their first real wall, as it is about twice the size of a normal ogre, and stands over 3 meters tall, carrying a fire-wreathed club whose speed and weight are far greater than anything most people have faced up to that point. He thinks that when someone challenges it for the first time, they usually escape at the last moment, straying after that their team, rework their strategy, and return only after preparing well. Cynthia looks at him and asks if he is thinking the same thing. Lars agrees and says that a very tough one is definitely waiting behind the door, but they still have plenty of stamina left and their spirit boosts are still active, so they should be able to fight. Both of them enter the boss room together, and Lars tells her that this will be their last fight before they head back for the night. He thinks that even 5-person teams struggle to defeat this monster, but with the Spirit Lord power he received from the Spirit King, he believes he can do it if they work together. He tells Cynthia that he has a big move. He wants to try and asks her to buy him some time. Cynthia nods and rushes straight toward the monster with her mace, saying with confidence that she can easily handle it. Cynthia tells Lars that she will begin with light pressure, and she jumps up and strikes the ogre with her full power. Its head hits the ground so hard everyone is shocked, because the ogre is already dead. Even Lars is unable to believe it and says he never thought it will fall in one hit. Cynthia answers that they have truly become strong. Lars picks up an item from the ogre and says it brings back old memories. And after that, he stands up and tells Cynthia that they should return for the day and continue again tomorrow. At that moment, the ground starts shaking and a black portal opens in the sky. A black liquid falls from it. Everyone is shocked and wonders what it is after that hands come out of the bubble and an owl-type monster with wings appears in front of them. Both of them freeze in fear. Lars quickly enhances Cynthia's will with his power and thinks that he has never seen such a monster in any book, and the spirits inside him warn him that they should not fight it. He shouts that the creature is extremely dangerous, and both of them try to transfer back to the gate using their lockets, but the lockets do not work. A black barrier stops the transfer. Lars says they cannot escape unless they defeat the monster, and Cynthia holds her mace firmly and says that if escape is impossible after that, they will defeat it. She runs straight toward the monster with her mace, but in a single instant, the monster punches her with such force that she is sent flying far away. Lars prepares to fight and takes a strong stance, but before he can act, the monster speaks to him in a serious tone and asks him if he is a spirit arts user. Lars cannot believe what he is hearing, and he wonders if the creature in front of him is actually a demon because its last strike is so fast and frightening. He wants to heal Cynthia, but he feels he cannot look away from the monster even for a moment. He decides that the only safe thing he can do is to throw a healing potion towards Cynthia, so he does that quickly. The creature introduces himself as Ammon and says that a spirit arts user is standing before him again after a very long time, and he calls Lars an obstacle. Ammon swings his hand toward Lars and says that this time will not be like the time long ago, and after that, he whispers the word, die. A huge wave of dark energy bursts out from him at that moment, and Lars uses the fire spirits around him to launch a fireball at Ammon. Cynthia opens her eyes and wonders why she is lying on the ground, and after that, it out of nowhere comes to her mind that she is still inside the labyrinth. She feels as if several of her bones are broken, and she knows she cannot move her body properly. She looks toward Lars and Ammon and realizes that Lars cannot deal with this enemy on his own. She reaches out desperately for the healing potion because she is determined to save Lars, and she feels that this time it is her turn to help him. She remembers how, in the past, when she was ordered to heal her team, only one adventurer had remained standing, and it was Lars and his old team who saved her. She recalls seeing the spirit energy flowing from Lars at that time. Cynthia drinks the potion now and holds her mace tightly in her other hand. Lars is doing everything he can to push back Ammon. but he wonders how many times he has already struck the monster. He regrets it immediately because he realizes that all he is doing is wearing himself out. At that moment, a powerful punch lands on Lars and breaks his sword, and he thinks he is truly going to die. But Cynthia arrives just in time and strikes Ammon's hand with her mace, breaking it before she collapses on the ground. Lars quickly lifts Cynthia up and begs her to stay conscious while he turns his eyes toward Ammon and notices that the monster has not completely healed this time. His attention after that moves to Cynthia's mace, and he sees a white light surrounding it, which makes him wonder if her strike carried a healing sanctity and if that sacred power is slowing down Ammon's recovery. He looks more closely at the mace and asks if its spirit is still present, and he quietly asks the spirit to lend him its strength, even if it is only a little. He remembers reading in ancient texts that spirits live within the four elements. But now, as a spirit lord, he can feel their presence very clearly. He clenches his fist and calls upon the Holy Spirit for help, and at the same time Ammon finishes healing his broken hand as well. Lars notices a dark haze gathering around Ammon and thinks that it must be dark spirits responding to him. He after that calls out to every spirit he can sense and asks all of them to lend him their strength. Lars runs toward Ammon to land a punch, and at the same time Ammon charges at him with his own fist raised. Their fists collide with great force, and Lars tries to push Ammon back, but soon realizes that he cannot overpower him on his own. At that moment, another spirit appears beside Lars and tells him that she will lend him her power. With her strength added to his, he finally manages to overpower Ammon. Ammon cannot believe that he has been pushed back so easily, but before he can react, Lars drives his strike straight into Ammon's chest and punches a hole through it, killing him. The spirit after that tells Lars that she will be waiting for him at the very bottom, and Lars wonders whose voice he just heard. He immediately rushes back to Cynthia, and when she opens her eyes, she asks him if he has defeated the monster. He tells her that he did, and thanks her for saving him. After that, the two of them start heading back together. Far away in a dark realm, a lady sits on a throne and watches Lars and Cynthia with a smile, and she sighs softly as she says that this is how the fight has ended. She after that commands another demon named Osgrob to go to the flame cavern, and Osgrob disappears from her side at once. She smirks and says that the demon folk have waited for a very long time, so they should enjoy what is coming at a slow and steady pace. Lars opens his eyes and finds himself in the same place where he first met the Spirit King, and he wonders why he has returned to this strange and quiet place again. As he tries to understand the situation, the Spirit King out of nowhere appears before him and welcomes him warmly, saying that he never thought they would meet again so soon, and that their reunion happens much earlier than he expected. Lars feels confused, but quickly asks the Spirit King who the demon named Ammon really is, because he wants to know what kind of enemy he just fought. The Spirit King explains in a calm voice that Ammon is one of the Demon Lord's powerful subordinates, and that he was sealed away thousands of years ago by the previous Spirit Mage. Yet for some unknown reason, he has somehow escaped from that ancient seal. The Spirit King after that hands Lars a small stone, and when Lars asks what it is, the Spirit King tells him that it is called a Spirit Stone, and that it should be impossible for anyone except a Spirit Mage to find it, because it is hidden deep within the dungeon by a very old mechanism. Lars wonders why such a mechanism even exists, and why it was created in a way that only a Spirit Mage can access it. But the Spirit King tells him that the purpose of the stone is to help the spirits grow even more attached to him, so that they can support him better. The Spirit King also warns Lars that even though he has defeated Ammon, Ammon is only a small pawn in a much larger plan, and the true mastermind behind everything is a demon named Asanael, a cunning and cruel demon who is known for creating traps and schemes, especially meant to harm Spirit Mages. And the Spirit King adds that even the previous Spirit Mage suffered greatly because of her actions. He tells Lars that they will need far greater strength if they hope to fight the Demon Lord in the future. So Lars must conquer the 5 great labyrinths and gain the power hidden within them. Lars responds with enthusiasm and says he will find all the Spirit Stones and defeat the Demon King without fail. The Spirit King tells him that the spirits will always support him, and after that, he disappears. Lars wakes up and finds that the Spirit Stone is still in his hand as proof that the meeting was real. He immediately decides to tell Cynthia everything that happened, After they eat breakfast, they meet again in front of the guild, and Lars asks her about her injuries. Cynthia tells him that she feels completely fine and that she can enter the dungeon whenever he is ready. Lars explains everything about the Spirit King and the stones, saying he understands that such a sudden story might be difficult to believe. But Cynthia answers right away that she believes him without any doubt. Lars knows that he is the only one who can seal the Demon King, and that the demon folk will keep coming after him. So he tells Cynthia that since they are targeting him, she should step back for her own safety. But Cynthia gently places her finger on his lips and smiles, and Lars understands what she means. After that, apologizes and tells her that because the demon folk are after him, he actually wants her to come with him. Cynthia smiles softly and holds his hand. Lars admits that the battles waiting for them in the future will be very hard, and that he feels nervous because he does not know what dangers they will face. But Cynthia tells him calmly that they will fight together no matter what happens. She after that says she has been thinking about a name for their party and suggests the name Spirit Viscum. Lars holds her hand tightly and says, "The name sounds amazing and meaningful, so they should go to the guild right away to register it." When they meet Miss Lottie, she registers the party name and says it is lovely and suits them well. Lars after that gives her the magic stone they obtained from the Flame Ogre, and Miss Lottie is shocked and asks if they are already fighting bosses at their current level. Lars and Cynthia confirm this, and Lars adds that there are some things they cannot talk about openly yet. After leaving the counter, they go to meet Hanuman and explain everything that happened inside the boss room from beginning to end. Lars also shows him the spirit stone he received. Hanuman tells them that he has been studying old guild records for a long time and remembers reading something vague about spirit stones. Though there have been no recorded discoveries for more than 1,000 years, he says that based on ancient documents, multiple stones were discovered long ago but eventually disappeared from all known history. When he holds the stone in his hand, he says it feels real and powerful, and if the Spirit King has given it directly to Lars, after that the situation in the world is definitely beginning to change. Lars agrees with him and thinks to himself that even though everything feels overwhelming, he must do what he can. He decides that the only path for him now is to continue conquering the labyrinths. After talking with Hanuman, both Cynthia and Lars leave the guild once again and head toward the entrance of the labyrinth to continue their journey. Both Lars and Cynthia clear the 16th floor of the labyrinth, and after they finish the battle there, Lars tells Cynthia that they should take a short break to recover their strength, and she agrees with him right as she was also tired. After they sit down, Lars explains that their main goal for the day is to defeat the boss monster waiting on the 20th floor. He says that he measured the distance on the map and found that it is about 300 kilometers away, which is nearly 3 times the distance they managed to travel the day before. But today, they have the whole day available and can move at a steady pace. He thinks that since they made very smooth progress yesterday without any major problems, aiming for the 20th floor should be possible. With the power of the enhanced spirits supporting them, both the strength and speed of the fire and wind spirits have increased greatly, and Cynthia's weapon now carries a strong ice enchantment that makes every strike more effective. Cynthia checks the map and tells Lars that they are actually ahead of schedule. Lars agrees and says that if they keep going at this pace, they can definitely achieve their goal before the day ends. As he looks at Cynthia, he cannot help thinking that she is in incredible form, moving with such refined strength and confidence that she looks almost like a Valkyrie in action. After eating, Lars and Cynthia stand up and continue moving forward through the long passage, running at a steady pace. But Lars out of nowhere stops Cynthia again when he senses someone's presence nearby. He feels a strong and unpleasant pressure in the air and realizes it is the presence of a dark spirit. He tells Cynthia that there is another demon waiting somewhere ahead of them and that they should make a plan while they still have the chance. He adds that they must move very carefully and rely on the blessing of the spirits so they do not walk into danger blindly. They after that enter a room together, but Lars immediately tells Cynthia that there should not be any room in this area at all according to the map, and this strange space makes him even more alert. He can clearly sense the presence of the dark spirit inside the room, yet he sees no monster anywhere. Suddenly, the door behind them shuts on its own, and a deep voice echoes through the entire room. The voice introduces itself as the demon Oskrob and says that he has come to obey his master's command and kill Lars. Lars and Cynthia quickly look around, trying to find the source of the voice. Lars asks loudly where Oskrob is hiding. At that moment, a hatch in the floor opens without warning, and Osgrob rises from it, revealing himself at last. Lars looks at the demon carefully and wonders if the creature standing before them is some kind of minotaur because of its human-like body and bull-like face. But before he can study it further, Osgrob shouts loudly that darkness shall envelop his servant, and a massive number of dark spirits gather around him with heavy pressure. Right after that, Osgrob jumps high into the air and strikes the ground with tremendous force, and the impact is so strong that both Lars and Cynthia are pushed back several steps. Osgrob after that tells them that it is time for Lars to show the true power of a spirit mage, as if he already knows what Lars is capable of. Lars turns to Cynthia and says that the demon folk are waiting for their chance, so they must conserve their strength and use it wisely. Cynthia agrees and says they should observe the demon's attacks first, before rushing in blindly. Lars asks the wind spirit to accelerate her movements, and with that blessing, Cynthia rushes toward Osgrob at full speed. She swings her mace with all her strength and manages to break both of Osgrob's horns in a single strike. However, the dark spirit instantly heals the horns as if nothing happened. Lars realizes that this situation is the same as the battle with the demon Ammon, where any attack wrapped in holy energy is eventually healed by the dark spirit supporting the demon. He understands that simply using holy energy is not enough to defeat Osgrob. He attacks Osgrob with fire spirits, and after that quickly tells Cynthia that they have no choice but to grant the power of the Holy Spirit to her mace if they want to win this fight. He asks her if she can create an opening for him. Cynthia rushes toward Osgrob again and says she will land a big hit. She slams her mace into Osgrob with great force, making him stumble for a moment. Lars uses that opening and begins chanting, and soon Cynthia's mace becomes a holy weapon filled with bright light. She thanks him with determination and charges at Osgrob once more. This time, the damage from her mace is completely different, and the demon clearly feels each strike. She keeps attacking him relentlessly, not giving him a chance to recover, and the demon begins to fade into the darkness while roaring in fury, but she continues until Osgrob vanishes. Cynthia after that asks Lars if they have won, and he replies that it seems so. But out of nowhere, Osgrob reappears, now wearing armor, and tells them that the power they use is certainly the same as that of their arch-enemy, but that is all they have, and he adds that they are surely going to disappoint that person. Lars thinks to himself that Osgrob now wears heavy armor, holds a spear, and seems completely different from the demon Ammon. He feels surprised when Osgrob out of nowhere points at his stomach, and a deep cut appears at once, making him fall to the ground as he bleeds. Cynthia sees this and quickly takes her mace, but when she rushes toward Osgrob, he points at her hands and quietly speaks the word arm, and cuts instantly appear on her hands, which makes her drop her weapon in pain. Osgrob tells them calmly that he will not kill them because he has not received any command to do so, and after saying this, he disappears from their sight. Cynthia after that runs to Lars and starts healing his wound with her magic, and Lars thinks that he is truly pathetic for not being able to protect himself, even though he still thanks her for helping him. After resting for some time, both of them decide that they should return, and Lars says that he still has some strength left. At that moment, he notices a door that was not there before, and they feel confused but choose to go inside. When they enter, they cannot see anything at first because everything around them is completely dark, and they walk carefully while trying to understand where they are. After a short moment, they finally notice a treasure chest faintly visible in the darkness. Lars says that it seems there are no monsters inside the room, and both of them slowly move toward the chest. Lars and Cynthia open the chest, and after that return to the guild, where they report everything to Hanuman. After hearing their story, Hanuman listens carefully, and when they mention the demon Oscorb, he gives a small smile and says that this means Lars will not give up easily. Lars agrees with him and shows the spirit stone he found inside the hidden floor's treasure chest, and Hanuman becomes shocked because Lars has found another spirit stone in such a short time. Lars after that says he is still very inexperienced and explains that he painfully understands how weak he is after the fight with Osgrob, and he believes he must gain power quickly so he can face the demon folk in the future. Hanuman agrees and says that they do not have much time to waste, but he also warns them not to rush recklessly because rushing may lead to mistakes. He tells Lars and Cynthia that they should not enter the labyrinth the next day and should rest properly. After they leave the guild, Cynthia looks at Lars and asks him what he plans to do. Now Lars answers that he wants to meet someone, and Cynthia becomes worried and asks what kind of person it is and whether the person is adorable. Lars says the person is the opposite of adorable and explains that it is his master from his early days and that meeting this person will help him train. He after that asks Cynthia if she wants to come with him. Cynthia immediately says that she wants to see the master who trained her as well, and that she wants to train very hard for the whole day so she can grow stronger. Lars agrees with Cynthia and says they will meet again after they both visit their masters. But they are surprised when they discover that both of their masters are actually the same person. They arrive at the same dojo, and Cynthia says she cannot believe they were taught by the same master, and also cannot believe that Lars trained in martial arts even though he is a backline fighter. Lars explains that he always wanted to do everything he could to become stronger. Cynthia looks around the dojo and says that nothing has changed, and she feels like the place is exactly the same as before. Suddenly, a student comes flying out of the door, and both of them see their old master standing there. Master Cavalera has just punched the student out of the room, and when he notices Lars and Cynthia, he says that they seem to be an unusual pair of visitors. Lars and Cynthia greet him respectfully and call him Master Cavalera. Master Cavalera looks at the student he punched and tells him to stand up straight in front of his seniors. The student tries to obey while trembling. Master Cavalera after that turns back to Lars and Cynthia and says that they clearly did not come just to remember the past, so they should both change into their dojo uniforms. Lars and Cynthia answer at the same time by saying, "Yes, sir," and they prepare themselves for training. Both Cynthia and Lars put on their dojo uniforms and enter the training ground with Master Cavalera. Lars starts his battle with Master Cavalera, but he is instantly knocked out when the master uses only one sweep kick, and Lars falls before he even understands what happened. Master Cavalera looks at him and asks if he is trying to attack or trying to defeat his opponent, because to him it looks like Lars is confused about his own feelings. Lars tries to stand, but Cavalera pushes him back down with just one finger to show him how unstable he is. After that, the master tells Lars that losing control is very easy. After that, Cavalera helps Lars stand properly and tells him to look at Cynthia. Lars turns and sees Cynthia breaking a training dummy with one clean strike. Other students immediately surround her, and they keep praising her for her strength and skill. Lars quietly says that it must be difficult for Cynthia because she always relies on someone else's back in real battles, even though she is clearly strong. Master Cavalera tells him to stop worrying about her because her judgment is sharp and she knows exactly what she is doing. The master after that looks directly at Lars and tells him to rely on him instead. Lars replies that he does rely on him and wants to learn properly. Master Cavalera also tells Lars that Cynthia is much stronger than him when it comes to martial arts. And Lars agrees without hesitation. A student walks up to Master Cavalera and asks for permission to spar with Senior Cynthia. Lars looks at the girl and realizes that she is the same one who was earlier sent flying by Master Cavalera during training. Master Cavalera gives her permission and tells her to learn as much as she can from Cynthia. Cynthia accepts the challenge. Their spar begins, and both of them take their fighting stances while watching each other closely. Cynthia thinks that the first strike usually comes after taking a hit, so she decides that she should go all out from the very beginning instead of waiting. The girl makes the first move and tries to kick Cynthia, but Cynthia blocks the kick easily with her hand. The girl after that attempts a downward kick, hoping to pressure Cynthia, but Cynthia steps aside and dodges it smoothly. In the next moment, Cynthia moves forward at high speed and reaches the girl's neck in a split second, showing that she has already won. The girl freezes and admits that Cynthia is really strong. Lars brings her a water bottle and tells her that she was amazing too, and that she did her best. Cynthia after that asks the girl how long she has been an adventurer, and the girl replies that it has been a little over 3 years, and that she is currently challenging the boss on the 20th floor. Cynthia says that such progress is truly impressive, and that the girl is very talented. Lars adds that reaching that point in only 3 years is a very fast achievement. The girl after that looks gloomy and says that she is still far from Cynthia's level and could not make any progress against her at all. Cynthia tells her that there is no need to rush because it took her 3.5 years to reach that same point. The student asks if that is really true, and Cynthia assures her that it is, and tells her that she can definitely become a great adventurer if she keeps training. Lars stands up and says that hurrying and being anxious are 2 different things. Their training session with Master Cavalera ends, and before dismissing everyone, Master Cavalera tells all his students to remember the power of 2-star adventurers and says that this day is a valuable chance for them. After that, He asks every student to pay their training fees. The girl who sparred with Cynthia brings a plate and says that they will use the collected money as their dinner fund so that everyone can go out to eat together. Cynthia and Lars quietly donate a pouch of coins, and all the students become shocked because the amount is far more than they expected. They say it is too much. But Master Cavalera laughs and says that it looks like they will have a grand dinner tonight thanks to their generous senpai. He tells everyone to show proper gratitude and dismisses the group. Meanwhile, in the demon realm, Oskrab appears in front of Asanael and asks if she summoned him. Asanael says that crushing weaklings has no meaning to her, and that if she is going to destroy something, it should be a worthy opponent who attacks her with full strength. She also says that waiting for the spirit mage to grow stronger is boring, so she has thought of a new diversion to entertain herself. Cynthia and Lars continue their journey through the labyrinth. Cynthia tells Lars that they have made a lot of progress and are already on the 20th floor. Lars answers that they are moving faster than the plan they made before. He says their master is the reason they can advance so quickly. As they keep walking, Cynthia notices something strange and tells Lars to take a look, and when he turns his eyes in that direction, he sees fire spirits appearing in front of them. Cynthia says she feels like the spirits want something from them. Lars agrees that the spirits seem to be calling out. Lars slowly takes out the spirit stone he is carrying and shows it to the spirits, and the moment the stone appears, a huge light bursts out from the fire spirits so brightly that he can no longer see anything around him. When the light fades, he finds himself alone in a peaceful place covered completely with green grass. When he looks around as far as he can, he sees nothing but an endless grassland stretching in every direction. He says it feels like he has been transferred somewhere else. The fire spirit out of nowhere appears in front of him, and she gently blows a wave of fire toward him. As the fire touches him, his entire body begins to burn. He feels the painful heat of his skin burning at first, but after that, he slowly realizes that the fire spirit is not trying to harm him and is actually giving him her power. He decides to embrace the flames, even though his body trembles from the intensity. The fire spirit after that gently holds his cheek with a warm touch and tells him in a soft voice that she will definitely lend him her strength. When Lars opens his eyes again, he out of nowhere finds himself back in front of Cynthia, who immediately asks him if he is all right because he looks shocked and confused. Before he can answer, a small girl appears out of nowhere, runs straight toward him, and hugs him tightly as if she already knows him well. Lars looks down at her in surprise and wonders aloud if the girl is also a spirit. The little girl nods with a bright smile and says her name is Sarah Cynthia. Cannot believe that the child standing in front of them is actually a spirit and stares at her in disbelief. Lars says the spirit stone's power must be so strong that it is attracting spirits to him on its own. He looks at the spirit stone in his hand and sees that it is glowing so brightly that even people without spirit sight would be able to see the light clearly. Sarah tells him that she is going to help him from now on, but Lars thanks her politely and says he cannot involve a child in dangerous battles. Sarah gets angry, stamps her foot, and says she is much stronger than him, and before either of them can stop her, she rushes straight toward a nearby boss room. Cynthia tells Lars that they have no choice but to chase after her, so both of them run after Sarah as fast as they can, but she is already gone inside the boss room by the time they reach the door. Lars and Cynthia breathe heavily and feel exhausted from running so hard, and Lars says they barely made it in time before the boss room door closed completely behind them. A huge bat flies above them. Sarah says that the boss of this floor is the flame bat. Lars explains that at first glance the flame bat may appear to be a gigantic monster, but in reality, many small individual bats gather to form one large bat. Even when struck, they continue to change shape like flames, and there is a limit to how many an adventurer can take down in a single attack. Usually, multiple people work together to protect each other's backs, and the strategy is to gradually reduce the bat's numbers over a long battle. Sarah tells Lars to watch carefully as she is going to show him her strength. He tells her that this should help her too, but Sarah angrily tells him to be quiet and just watch. Cynthia tells Lars they should believe in her, but he cannot imagine Sarah taking down all the bats alone. He wonders what she is planning. Sarah concentrates her power into one point and forms a huge fireball. It is so hot that even Lars and Cynthia can feel the impact. Cynthia says she is going to reduce their numbers in one blow. After that, Sarah forms 2 more massive fireballs around her. Lars guesses she is planning to reduce the number to 0. She points her finger at the flame bat, and all of her fireballs strike the monster at once. all the individual bats split apart and burn instantly. Lars cannot believe she defeated so many with just one spell. Sarah after that looks at Lars and asks what he thinks of her strength. Both Lars and Cynthia pat her and admit they were wrong about her, saying she is truly amazing. They keep petting her until she gets frustrated and pushes them away. Cynthia says they should get along from now on. The same day, at the same time, in the third labyrinth, all of the adventurers lie helpless on the ground. Kristoff, crawling on the floor, takes out his adventurer tag and tries to transfer everyone back to the entrance. He begs the tag to work, but nothing happens. Confused and terrified, he tries to stand, but he is quickly surrounded by numerous dark demons. He wonders how everything fell apart so suddenly. Just moments earlier, at the plaza in front of the dungeon entrance, an adventurer comments that the Wings Without End party has run away from monsters and looked terrified. He even mocks them, saying that despite being a powerful party officially recognized by the royal family, they ran like cowards. Suddenly, Barton appears behind the man and lifts him by his collar, furiously demanding that he repeat what he said. The man smirks and says he isn't afraid of a party abandoned by someone like Jason. Barton is about to punch him, but the guild receptionist out of nowhere appears and announces an emergency. She warns everyone to leave the dungeon immediately because it is extremely dangerous and the entrance will be sealed. Kristoff asks what happened, and the receptionist explains that black demons have appeared in large numbers throughout the entire labyrinth. They are far stronger than regular monsters and possess overwhelming healing abilities that prevent adventurers from inflicting even a single wound. They have started moving beyond the dungeon boundary, putting the labyrinth in a critical state. She adds that the branch head is gathering allied parties to form countermeasures. Kristoff smiles, saying this saves them trouble. Confidently, he boasts that they are the Wings Without End, and everything will be fine. He orders Barton, Kuka, Ula, and himself to head inside the dungeon. The receptionist calls after them and says that the Wings Without End are specifically not permitted to enter the labyrinth. Kristoff is shocked and demands to know why. She explains that due to their recent repeated failures, their evaluation is extremely low. Barton becomes furious again and lifts the receptionist, pridefully insisting that they are the Wings Without End. Kristoff clenches his teeth, wondering if this is all because Lars is gone, and decides to enter regardless. He tells his team they just need to show their strength and assures the receptionist that they will handle the situation. They enter the dungeon full of confidence, but none of them stand a chance against the demons. After taking multiple devastating hits, Kristoff collapses to the ground and silently admits that he was wrong all along. Sarah, Cynthia, and Lars finally reach the deepest level of the first labyrinth. They stand before the huge gate, and Lars smiles, saying they have finally reached the final boss room. A few hours earlier, when they arrived, Sarah was already waiting in front of the door. Lars apologizes for keeping her waiting. Cynthia asks if she was bored alone, but Sarah says she wasn't, and shows them she was just floating around for fun. Lars tells them they are going to conquer the labyrinth today and asks Sarah if she'll help again. She agrees. He says that once they defeat the boss beyond the large door, they will finally complete the first labyrinth. As he opens the door, Lars thinks about how powerful spirit magic truly is, and with Cynthia and Sarah beside him, crossing this labyrinth should be easy. They enter the boss room, but no one is inside. Suddenly, a dark voice says he has been waiting. Lars turns and sees Osgrob standing there. Osgrob says, "Conquering the labyrinth this fast is impressive and shows how much they've grown." Lars confidently replies that this time they won't lose like before. Osgrob opens a portal, amused by Lars's confidence. Out of the portal steps the girl named Vinde. The same student who sparred with Cynthia at Master Cavalera's dojo is now completely covered in dark spirits. Osgrob commands Vinde to kill Lars and Cynthia. Vinde obeys and attacks Lars. Sarah pushes Vinde away with flames and scolds Lars, asking what he is doing. Vinde gets up and apologizes to both Lars and Cynthia. Lars clenches his teeth, realizing Osgrob is forcing Vinde to move using dark spirits. Osgrob after that raises his spear and challenges all three of them. Sarah and Cynthia take fighting stances, and Cynthia tells Lars that they will handle Osgrob while Lars must drive away the dark spirits surrounding Vinde and save her. Only he can do it. Lars agrees and summons the spirits around him, promising Vinde that he will help her. The battle begins. Sarah and Cynthia fight Osgrob while Lars rushes toward Vinde. She attacks him with rapid, powerful punches, but he blocks them. He thinks to himself that Lars has inhuman strength and there is no way he can match her enhanced speed. He clenches his fist and asks every spirit to lend him strength. After that, charges forward at full speed and punches Vinde's torso. The impact blasts all the dark spirits away from her, and Vinday collapses. He picks her up and lays her gently on the ground. He turns toward Osgrob and says he cannot forgive him. Out of nowhere, he notices several dark spirits gathering around him. Looking at Vinday, he realizes all the dark spirits that controlled her are now drawn to him. He understands that he can convert this darkness into his own power, and he now knows how to do it.